General quarters, all hands man your battle stations.
Broadcasting live on WNN 1470 AM, 95.3 FM, iHeartRadio, and the World Wide Web. This is Make America Think Again with your Google Blacklisted host, Tom Trento.
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger. No, Will Robinson. Danger.
Yeah. I may be blacklisted by Google. As the lead-in says, on the 27th of February, a nice chilly day in South Florida. Going to get a little more chilly. I may be blacklisted, which means the organization that I direct, the United West, doesn't get treated fairly by Google on the internet. But I got a guy in studio today that can buzz through any blacklisting, any censoring, anything with us today instead of Wednesday, because yesterday was Ash Wednesday and he was preoccupied. But today we have Willy Guardiola once again in studio. My brother, what's going on? How are you?
Good morning, Tom. Chilly Willy this morning. Very, very chilly out there, but I love this weather.
Snowing outside.
I love it.
Snowing outside.
I love it.
Any iguanas falling out of the
Trees.
tree?
Oh, man.
That's
Not
right.
yet.
That's right.
Probably Friday and Saturday, especially in my 7 acres where I live out there. We do have some iguanas out there and one gator in the lake.
Yeah, what do you do when they plop over? Do you passionately and responsibly whack them into eternity?
No, I just put a little ashes on their forehead.
Iguana ashes. You heard it first here, ladies and gentlemen. So, Willie, we got a lot to do today, folks. We're discussing biomedical ethics today, particularly the pro-life issue, because we have a preeminent pro-life leader with us. It is a plank. It is a foundational position of the Republican Party, and it is a foundational position of the Democrat Party. But they're a little different, as you're going to see in a little bit. So we're going to talk about that because, as I have maintained for many, many, many years, the way you treat the weakest member of your society reflects as to how you construct justice. You want to talk about justice? Justice to those who are the weakest. And scientifically, we know there are unborn children. They're children, at least when the mother who wants a baby gets pregnant, she says, I'm having another elephant. I'm having another asparagus. I'm having another
Iguana.
I'm having another what?
It's a baby.
I'm having another baby.
And when they want to do population control, what do they encourage? Contraception? No. Do they encourage sex education? No. They encourage abortion. To control population.
And Margaret Sanger knows a lot about that, I'm sure. So we're going to deal with that today. We're also going to take a look at Bernie on Cuba, because we got a Cubano in here. And I have a phenomenal letter that a Democrat Cuban in Miami woman wrote to Bernie regarding Bernie's comments about how great the literacy program was when Castro defeated Batista in 1959, 1960. And he started, let's all learn to read, kids. Here's Dr. Seuss. Let's, this person was in school then, and she wrote a very, very powerful letter. So we got a lot going on today. But what I'd like to start with is we got some breaking news yesterday from Congressman Louie Gohmert. He's a friend of ours. He's a congressman out of Texas. He is a judge, former judge. He's a full-time congressman now. And he's been a friend to the conservative movement for 20 years. And he was a very, very dear friend of our dear friend Philip Haney.
Which I did not know.
Yeah. I didn't know the extent to which they were friends, but Gohmert was one of the ones in the whole Frank Gaffney cabal of counter-jihad people in training and all of this stuff that went on for years and years and years. Louie Gohmert got on the congressional floor yesterday, and it was covered by C-SPAN, as they do. And Louie goes and speaks about a number of things, but we got a minute or two we want to share with you Louie's comments on Philip Haney. For those of you listening on WNN 1470 now at 11:08 in the morning on this beautiful Thursday, Philip Haney, dear friend of the United West, dear friend of America, one of the founding members of the Department of Homeland Security, a preeminent scientist who took his scientific skills in studying bugs, entomology, to the research skills to research the nests of jihadis worldwide, and distinguished himself. And then Obama said, "You know what? You're a little too good at this, Philip. You're a little too good, and you're profiling Muslims, and we can't have that. We can't have that. You can't profile them, so rip up your 86 files that you have." And Philip said, "Nah, I don't think I'm going to do this. This is a 3-year battle, several grand juries, his badge taken, his gun taken." He becomes a whistleblower, and once he became a congressional whistleblower, a legal, legitimate, unlike that nitwit over in Adam Schiff, his whole impeachment thing. Once he became a legitimate congressional whistleblower, then he started working even more deeply with Louie Gohmert. So Gohmert, a friend, comes up and has a few words to say about our friend Philip and his manner of death.
He had hoped to be coming back in the next few weeks to work for the federal government. But then he got some news last week that he needed to have open heart surgery. Chances of success were very good. Complete success. Shouldn't be too long of a recuperation time. And he passed that along to the person that he was going to be coming to work for in the federal government. Sent him a text. Got to have open heart surgery next week, but basically hope to be available for work shortly after that. Short recuperation. He talked to his sister, either talked or texted with his sister virtually every day. And they texted up to the evening last Thursday. And Friday, he was found in his car with a gunshot wound and a gun nearby. I think the Amador County law officials are doing a decent job. They seem to be very committed. But
He's emotionally crying right now.
his book was going to name names of people that put this country at risk. Getting married April 4th. Finally going to be able to come back to the U.S. government and use his incredible talents and ability to spot danger for our country and stop it. And he ends up with a bullet in him. So the investigation is ongoing.
This is where he gets really emotional.
He is severely missed by those of us who loved him. We had talked back before he filed the IG complaint. I'd been concerned about his safety with all the information he knew and the people that could have gotten in trouble. And we had a mutual pact. If it said either one of us end up having committed suicide, then the other is going to make sure that truth wins out. He is so organized, though. He had made clear to his sister that something he was going to do and something he was doing. He said, "You need to come over because I've got everything laid out. If something happened during the heart surgery next week, got everything laid out." And that's how he was. Everything was so organized. I would love to be as organized as Phil. And he had such a positive outlook on things. He had been through a horrendous time with his wife having been made ill by the raucous Obama administration coming after him to try to shut him up. And see, that's what a real whistleblower, he testified before the Senate. That's what a real whistleblower does. A real whistleblower does not remain anonymous. They come forward, subject themselves to cross-examination, and supposedly have protection. But that's not what happened in the Obama administration. If you were a whistleblower, in fact, the Obama administration prosecuted more people for leaking than every other administration in our country's history added together.
Yeah, there's so much in that 2-minute statement by Congressman Louie Gohmert, and he went on for 30 minutes about 40 minutes. That we don't have time on this show to go through it all. But Midwest Dick, you're very close to all of this. You were very close to Philip.
You stayed in your house for a few times, right?
Yeah, Philip Haney was a great American, a great friend, and on a personal level, you can see the kind of impact he has on people, including somebody as accredited as Louie Gohmert. They were brothers. We feel like brothers. If you listen carefully, one of the most important things that Louie Gohmert said was that Philip contacted somebody in Washington that he was going to go to work for to tell him about a delay. This is really important. If he was finally getting back, and apparently he was, into the administration, he was not going to have to deal with Congress. Remember, he was rebuffed by Congress. Louis tells that story. Years before the Senate hearing with Ted Cruz, the House turned on Philip despite Louis's efforts. So this is a guy who's got information. He's going to name names. Philip said that on our program. Louis is saying that, and Louis is saying it was imminent for him to come back in Washington in the administration, the executive, not the legislative, the executive. So this is really critical.
He was about to name a whole bunch of names, and I just doesn't make. Well, you draw your own speculation from that.
Well, yeah, the situation is, as Louis said, ongoing, and we've been involved in a whole variety of investigations at different levels, and we understand that particularly something like this takes time. But the Amador Sheriff's Department has called in the FBI and the Sacramento Coroner's Office, and they know they're under a microscope, not only by congressional members, Senate members, administration members, the intelligence community, by a whole bunch of people. So we're gonna let the investigation play out and find out what happened after that. But the breaking news that was significant to me, I didn't know. I had heard a handful of people said they had spoken to Philip, and if he had told them, if I'm ever dead with a suicide note, don't believe it. I didn't know he made a compact with Congressman Louie Gohmert to the same effect.
Right.
So now we got Louie spooled up on that. So we'll develop this story. We'll stay with it, but we don't want to wildly speculate on anything at this point. We're just bringing new information that occurred.
Well, one thing I am confident about is that his documents are secure. He's got them out to multiple places, and he's backed them up to the latest possible backup date. So
we'll find that out. But you, Willie G., you're our guest in studio, and you had an opportunity to spend a couple of weeks with Philip in Israel last year.
Well, I'll tell you what, he's probably one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. I did get to spend some time with him, pick his brain. I mean, anything from music to everything that he was doing. And the thing that impressed me the most was that one evening where we had the Border Security panel, all the experts, 6 people up there, and what he covered, it was humorous, his book and everything, and just what he said in the simple words. He wasn't a man of many words, but every time he opened up his mouth, it was something that, wow, this man is very smart. Again, one of the most intelligent people that I've ever met in my life. I was at a Christian prayer breakfast on Saturday morning when I got the text message saying that Philip Haney was shot and killed, and it just literally just broke my heart right then and there.
Yeah, and on our trip, and we're going again May 18 through 29 of this year, National Security Tour, a specific election year mission with Team Jexit. The whole Jexit team is coming with us. We're going to be briefed by Ambassador David Friedman. So we work, we learn, but we play a lot also. And you brought your mouth organs, about 20 of them, and Philip had a guitar, and he serenaded us with some songs. Did you ever get a chance to play with him?
No, as a matter of fact, I did, and it was just I got stuck with my roommate John Guandola playing.
Hey, we'll pray for you.
No, we're looking forward to it again come May 18th. I'm bringing my whole briefcase,
the whole deal,
full of blues.
The whole deal, beautiful. So if you want to hear the blues, in Israel. But the blues played by this guy is amazing, and we have other people, talented people that come in.
And Phil played a moving tribute to his wife on the guitar one night, and it was just the guy was just multi-talented.
Just tore us all up. Yeah,
I know.
It was pretty wild, and that's up on the internet. Barry Fernandez put that up.
By the way, Tom, let me just inject one last thing. When I was with Philip, he brought up several times how terrible that all you have to do is understand the position of many people in this country about abortion. That's the underlying thing. If you can tolerate abortion, you can tolerate all this terrible stuff that comes with the Muslim Brotherhood. You can tolerate pedophilia. You can tolerate child marriage. You can tolerate all those things, and they do if you fundamentally can agree with killing babies and infanticide, etc. That was his overwhelming message to me. Don't be surprised. It all starts with abortion.
Wow.
Well, again, in a previous life, I was a pro-life. You're never not a pro-life activist, but that's all I did all day, all night for 10 years or so. And I could easily lay out over the past 20, 30 years the decline of the respect for human life and the increase in gun violence shootings in schools around the United States.
Right.
Could show that very easily with the acceptance of killing a human being inside their mother, then the advancement of video games where you have to go in and not only shoot people, but go in for the kill, give them a headshot and do all of this, desensitizing people. The acceptance of all of this by a party, the Democrat Party, and then a young kid comes into this. Why not shoot people and kill them if you want to kill them? You know, why not? There's no God, there's no anything.
I get points for it.
I get points for it. So that's a whole nother crazy situation. But we have a guy here who is doing tremendous work. Get us up to date. What's going on with you on the pro-life movement in the state of Florida and Palm Beach County?
Well, right after I left the studio here last Thursday, the statistics came in for abortions here in the state of Florida, 67 counties. I have been praying months and months that when the 2019 stats come in, that Palm Beach County was going to go under 5,000 abortions. I was hoping like 4,700. Unfortunately, we went up probably about 430 abortions from last year. So that's like 5,400 and change. And the amazing thing is that look what's happened to Broward County over the last year and a half. They've dropped almost 2,500 abortions in just a year and a half. And Dade County went down to 12,500 in 2018, but now they went back up to 2019 up to 15,000. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
So I called the Planned Parenthood over at the in Boca, Glades, and the Turnpike, where we're going to be doing a huge protest on Saturday, March 21st at 9:30 in the morning. And they're elated. Their abortion business is up. Why? Because 2 years ago they started doing surgical abortions as well as chemical abortions. So their abortion numbers have gone up. They're taking abortions from Broward County, and that's why our abortion rate, has gone up here in 2019. So I am putting together some big emails and inviting the press, all the local stations to come out there, and we need to come very strong. Pro-Lifers for Trump will be there, and again, it's going to be on Saturday, March 21st, 9:30 a.m. We'll go there for 2 hours, and let them know that we're not happy with what they're doing there in Boca.
Shine a light on it in Boca Raton. Okay, well, we're going to be in here every week, so we'll keep pounding that for sure. The whole abortion issue. I wanted to take a little interesting twist on this, and we'll open up for you guys back there too. It's a political, well, everything's political. If you live in a republic where you're entrusted with a vote, then everything about life is political because you're asked to participate in the political, the sense of community, designing and developing the place where you want to live with these people. So everything is political in that sense. But I wanted to take a different angle. And this conversation for the next couple of minutes is reserved for people who at least theoretically posit the existence of God. If you're an atheist, it doesn't apply. You have a whole set of problems with where you find morality if you're an atheist. That's an interesting dilemma you're in. I'll give you the answer. You can't find it, and anybody can hurt you if they want to because you bother them. Oh, wait a minute, we have laws against that. Well, who's the law? They're not my laws. I don't follow those. Well, there's consequences. Yeah, but you're dead because I don't like you. So, so on and on and on. But for those of you who posit God, and let's just look worldwide, who are the people that say, yeah, it's possible God exists? Who are those groups?
Well, Muslims.
Muslims, they believe in Allah. They believe in a God. Who else?
Jews.
Jews believe in God.
India. They believe in a goddess, God, Buddha kind of God.
The Indians, the Hindus, they actually have 330 million deity. They're pantheistic. Right. There's a God for everything.
Christians.
I'll hold them out. Christians,
Mormons,
obviously.
Mormons.
Well,
Catholics.
Catholics are supposed to believe in God and that we're all created in His image and likeness.
Okay.
Mormons.
Mormons and the confrontational group, Martin Luther, the priest in the 1500s.
The Protestants.
They believe in God. So we got Muslims. I keep going. Any other groups out there?
I don't know. Does Buddha really count as a god?
Buddha, no God in Buddhism.
No
just
God
8 principles of life.
8 principles of life.
The Baha'i faith.
The Baha'i, nope. They don't really count. No, that's bizarre. Well, we just covered. How about China? Nope. Atheistic China. Yeah. Japan. Now there's the Christian churches moving, but the Shinto view.
Oh, Zoroastrians. You get those
Zoroastrians. Yeah. You can throw there a handful.
Yeah.
But we just covered with those few groups at least half the world's population.
Right.
Okay? So we're talking now to 4 billion people. So this and in America, I think the atheist rate is like 10%. So out of 330 million, 30 million, at least 300 million people said, yeah, there could be a God out there. Could we agree that that's a place to start?
Yeah.
Well, doesn't it make sense to look at complex issues from God's point of view? Now, I know that disciplines favor and negotiate and move God in different directions, but you would think on the issue of human life, there could be some consensus as to how God would think. Well, let's explore it for a moment. So for those of you listening, 11:27 in the morning, Tom Trento, your host, WNN 1470, 95.3, iHeart. I got Willie G in the studio, J. Mark and Midwest Dick at the controls. We're going to play a little philosophy here for the next 5 minutes. We're going to look at the abortion issue. So we need to define that whenever you're studying anything. We're from God's point of view. And we're just going to see what God thinks about abortion. Let's start with a definition. Midwest, you got a definition of abortion?
Taking the life, ending the existence of a breathing organism, whether they're born or about to be born or just recently born.
Ending a zygote.
Ending a zygote. Ending a fetus.
Simply just murder.
Yeah.
Murder. And, well, we'll stay on the science. You went to the legal part. We'll stay on the science.
Well, the zygote thing is like their big argument right now.
Well, there's a blastocyst, which comes even before that, but we can go with a zygote or a fetus, something. And in the few hundreds of debates that you and I have had, I'm sure, with these people, you say, I ask them, what is abortion? Well, it's the removal of what? What is being,
zygote.
First of all, is it living?
No.
No, it's obviously living. You don't have to remove it.
Well, I'm just giving you the counter argument.
They say no, but you go, then why are you removing it? What's the problem? It's not living. That takes about 2 seconds. Oh, okay, it's living. Okay. Now, what is it? Who made it? What genus made it? Is it from the elephant?
No.
Mammals? Is
No,
it from
human.
So you come down to, so it's made by a human and it's living. So we have a living human, but it's not.
That's not human.
Well, is it human? Yeah. It's not. The argument, the First Amendment, what am I talking? Not First Amendment. It's under the
first principle.
No.
Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness.
No. I skipped my mind for a minute. But the legal argument, the Supreme Court decision was on personhood. It twisted on personhood. That whatever that is, we have to grant it's human because that's science. We have to grant it's living, but it's not a person. Therefore, you can't murder something that isn't a person, so it doesn't have legal protection. That was the argument.
Well, from a theological life perspective,
let's look at it like that, from God's point of view.
Okay, well, there's an argument from groups of people that it's not a life until it actually passes the birth canal.
But what I want to do,
that's a theological argument.
Yes, the Jewish community, portions of the Jewish community believe that it's ensouled. It gets its soul as the baby passes the thigh,
right? And
therefore, you can't abort once it's out. But I want us to struggle with God in His infinite wisdom when He said, "You know what? I think I'll start a thing with people. I think I'll start something, a big round globe. I'll give them something so they don't fall off of it, because all these other planets, things are falling off of it. I'll put some gravity there. They can stay there. I'll put some trees and all this. And all right, I got everything done, and I gotta put something else. There's animals. I'll put people. Right. I'll put people there. Now, sounds a little facetious, but of all the disciplines we spoke about, they all have a origin of God doing exactly that, so we're not out of bounds. Tell me, Willie, from God's point of view, what do you think He thinks about His process of continuing life? He could have had, like, fruit grows on a tree. He could have human beings growing on trees. He could have had, there's an infinite number of ways He could have brought human beings into existence at the beginning.
Well, once again, we're all created in His image and likeness and for procreation. So think about, when is a person considered dead? When he no longer has a heartbeat. When does a baby have a heartbeat? Usually between 18 to 21 days. So think about that, just going up to nowadays when people say, well, is that really a baby? Is it a fetus? Is it a blob of tissues? Again, I'm looking at what's going on today. And God created us all, again, in His image and likeness. And, for us to abort a baby, a human being, not an elephant or an iguana or anything, it's just beyond me that it is a human being, just like Adam and Eve. And I just don't understand how we've gotten to this point now where it's acceptable. Not only to kill a baby.
I understand. I'm constructing a philosophy class here, and
Right.
you're doing science and political action and legal issues. But I'm going to hold us to the philosophy and theology. So God's up there, and He says, and the philosophers call this the best of all possible worlds. That the world we have is the best of all possible worlds, even with its problems. Because inherent in creating something very good, there has to be something very bad. There has to be the sense of evil to show the sense of good. But if this is the best of all universes, then God said, what? What did he say? I'm going to bring people into the world through what kind of process?
Procreation.
Procreation, right.
Okay, a man and a woman come together, which is a unique bond.
Right.
Just in and of itself, a social bond, a familial bond, a communal bond. And then these two people who have a commitment to one another, they're entrusted with continuing
Right.
the human race.
And so they have to have a minimum of 2 kids to do that.
Well, but
Right.
even before we get to that, God could have said, all right, we got 2 people together. Now you're going to travel to Idaho, and there's magic stones underneath a rock. You get one of those, put it in water, and you'll have little babies. And you know Carl Sagan? You ever hear Carl Sagan?
Mm-hmm.
Carl Sagan believed in this. His view of life was called panspermia, that aliens sent sperm all over, and one of the big pieces of sperm became us, and that's where humans came from and all of this. Brilliant guy.
Now, where did the panspermia come from?
Yeah, right. You go back to first causes. So God said, you could have you find little seeds. He could have done that, but he had through a physical joining together, the continuation, and something unique started. Something, I wouldn't even use the term miraculous because we're doing philosophy here. 2 sets of genes came together, and a new something started going. Is that true? I mean, do the Muslims believe that?
Yeah.
Do the Jews believe that?
Yes.
Do the Christians?
Yes.
So anyone who posits a belief in God in a serious way says God's plan for bringing people into the world was through conception, and then there was a natural birth time, and then this joy, this continuation of who God is, would result. True?
Yeah.
Good?
I agree.
Give me an amen.
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 Amen, Brother Tom.
Okay, so from God's perspective, he initiated this process called birth.
Right.
All right? Now let's look at, from God's perspective, of how human beings have intervened in what he has concluded was the absolute perfect way for a man and a woman to bring another human being into existence. And let's now look at the intervention or the interception of that life developing from God's point of view. God looking down at this, what does he say? What does he think?
Well, I think you should think that creation is something that God chose to do, and in a sense, it's an act of love, and so ongoing procreation is continuing that process, and we have a role in that. So I think the intervention, which you're about to discuss, from God's perspective, would be an act of violence, as opposed to continuing what He started.
Well,
Is there anywhere ever where God looks at the intervention, which we call abortion,
right,
and says, way to go, all right, good job, good, you stopped that thing growing?
Well, I think what happens, though, Tom, is, and you're exactly right on that point, but there's also the flip of this, too. God is also blessing us with knowledge and information and surgical techniques and ways to show the world that, by just example, that, a baby can live at 24 weeks. I was just talking about Willy a minute ago, is they just celebrated a guy named Matthew Whitaker on 60 Minutes, a prodigy, a musician, jazz musician extraordinaire. He was born at 23 weeks, before the eyes were fully developed. So he was blind, and they gave him a piano at 3 years old, and he's playing Mozart, right? Now, you look at this whole argument, and this is a leftist organization. At no point did they say, wow, there is viability, extreme viability at a child, at 23 weeks old. We can't, what would happen if we would have aborted that child? They never come to that conclusion. But the question is obvious. And that's where God is blessing us with knowledge and surgical techniques and ways to extend our human race beyond our natural, our God-given, talents. And I just find it amazing that the two are disjointed, disconnected between a logical and thoughtful mind.
It's amazing. Willie G, you're the pro-lifer. We just established that half the world believes in God. 90% of America does. God, in His infinite wisdom, came up with a plan of bringing children into existence, His image, through parents. But we know abortion exists, and you are an expert in it. Why do people go against what seems to be, or what is, God's perfect plan, and intervene? What are the reasons that are so compelling that I got to do this? God made a mistake this time.
Well, let's go back to 1916. With Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood. Most people don't understand why Planned Parenthood came into being, and what she tried to do was to weed out, mostly the black community from way back when. And even the blacks today, the Democrats, don't know that history. So that's where Planned Parenthood came in to being, 104 years ago. And just, the mere fact that to weed out the less, humans. And it really is totally amazing that somebody came up with that philosophy. And to this day, Planned Parenthood is killing 335,000 babies, a year on that philosophy. And allowing a human being to voice her opinion, saying we're going to come up with an organization and it's going to put a stop to these babies being born, and actually go and pinpoint the different communities, minorities, and and we've just allowed this to happen on a daily basis without saying enough is enough, no more. So
the first thing socialists want to do is eradicate the undesirables. And that's now you got Bernie Sanders wanting to open pot stores in downtown. so think of this combination. Let's put Planned Parenthood and pot stores together. That's really going to help the black community.
That's going to work well. Hey, 11:40 in the morning. Tom Trento, your host. Willie G in studio. We got J. Mark and Midwest Dick at the controls, and we're diving into some of the deeper elements of the abortion issue because it's so critical, and it's going to be a major issue in this election 250 days from today. And our job at the United West is to mobilize 1,000,001 evangelical Christians. They theoretically should be opposed to abortion. The other side is for abortion, so Christians should be up and running and getting in to vote because we have. Tell me about this president. Is he a pro-life president, or what's the deal?
The most pro-life president we've had in 243 years, and that's why I put together a coalition called Pro-Lifers for Trump, and we're growing by the weeks here in Palm Beach County. Everybody in the country knows about us now, and that's why we're going to be doing the big protest next Thursday at Planned Parenthood. But President Trump has done so much behind the scenes alone with the 192 judges that he's brought in, and they're all, in the favor of pro-life and what have you. But everything that he has signed on right now and defunding Planned Parenthood, this president is just amazing, and that's really why I love President Trump.
All right, now I'm going to give the audience here, 11:41 in the morning, Tom Trento, Make America Think Again. We are discussing, if you're just cycling in, the abortion issue, and we've established that for the majority of Americans there is a God. And we've established through a little bit of analysis that God's perfect plan for continuing the human race was to bring a man and a woman together, a husband and a wife. And the product of that conception would be a human being made in the image of God. And it's like a pretty good plan. God's plan, pretty good plan. We've just established that. But people intervene. The first intervention, going back to the early 1900s, Margaret Sanger, look it up. She was a Nazi, basically. She hated black people. She came up with abortion as a social tool to weed out black people. Anybody black in America who supports Planned Parenthood or the Democrat Party, you talk about slavery and all these issues, look at the core issue killing the black community today. It's Planned Parenthood. They're targeting the black community. Unbelievable. Now, but that's rhetoric. That's the heat of the battle. Well, let's look dispassionately at the position of the Democrat Party as articulated by the Democrat Party in their platform. And I'll read their platform on the abortion issue. Securing reproductive health rights and justice. Democrats are committed to protecting and advancing reproductive health. What the hell is reproductive health? Rights and justice. We believe unequivocally, like the majority of Americans, that every woman should have access to quality reproductive health care services, including safe and legal abortions, regardless of where she lives, how much money she makes, or how she is insured. We believe that reproductive health is the core to women's, men's, and young people's health and well-being. When we talk about abortion being a linchpin issue, a watershed issue, a fundamental issue, they're the ones saying, listen to this, we believe that reproductive health is the core, abortion is the core to women's, men's, and young people's health and well-being. We will continue to stand up to Republican efforts to defund Planned Parenthood health centers, which provide critical health services to millions of people. We will continue to oppose and seek to overturn federal and state laws and policies that impede a woman's access to abortion, including by repealing the Hyde Amendment. We condemn and will combat any acts of violence, and they go on to say that. Willie, you heard that? What does that say to you?
One movie, Unplanned. If you haven't seen the movie Unplanned, you need to go see it. It came out on March 29th. It's a story of Abby Johnson, who spent 8 years working at Planned Parenthood in Texas. And what she saw changed everything. That was the name of the slogan there. And for 4 Tuesdays in a row, I bought out the theater at the Cobb Theater in Palm Beach Gardens, 160 seats. Place was packed, every seat taken. And you'd be amazed at how many people came up to me after that movie, including teenagers, 12 of them that came from Holy Spirit in Lantana. And I said, guys, what do you think of the movie? And every single one of them said, I had no idea. I had no idea this is what they did at Planned Parenthood. I had a 75-year-old gentleman who was a school principal for 30 years in New York, a counselor for 27 years, came up to me, hugged me, crying. And he says, Willie, I was a school principal for 30 years, and as a counselor, I sent thousands of teenage girls to Planned Parenthood. They had no idea. And I'm telling you, when you go see that movie, it will change your life, and we need to have more people, especially on the left side, the Democrats, to see this kind of movie, because what you just read, that this just explains everything right then and there in an hour and 59 minutes. That is, and that was an amazing movie. I saw it, and that is, that what I read is the Democrat platform. Yep. I didn't read somebody's crazy right. That's the position of the Democrat Party. And it was very important at this point, 11:46 in the morning. Tom Trento, your host with Willie G, Mark, and Midwest Dick. Very important to state that we're talking about a public policy issue, the issue of abortion. You would, to your detriment, to your intellectual detriment, for you to conclude we have no care or compassion for anyone caught up in this. And it's not just women. You don't get pregnant by yourself. There's a male partner necessary. And I've been doing this for 40 years, and you too, many, many years. It's extremely difficult. Myself, friends, you, Willie, we've been involved in starting hundreds of crisis pregnancy centers and places for women in distress, because it is very distressful. I've had a lot of friends who have gone through this and know it very, very well. So we're not downplaying the significance and necessity of dealing with people in a crisis, because if you have an unplanned pregnancy, you're in a crisis. Is the solution abortion? Absolutely no, never, ever, and we can talk about that. What we're drawing attention to today in terms of the election 250 days from today, you're going to see Planned Parenthood pouring millions and millions and millions and Soros and all those people. Hitting Bloomberg. They're going to hit Trump on his pro-life position. We want you to understand God's point of view. We laid that out in the first half of the show. Now the public policy point. I just read the Democrat platform. Now I'm going to read the Republican platform. Tell me if it's any different, and tell me those Democrats who have a moral base. You are one of the 250 million that believe in some God, some way. We established it's his perfect
plan to bring children through parents, listen to this platform. You tell me logically, in a vacuum, which one makes more sense. Faithful, and I'm reading, supporting human life amendment opposing abortion funding from the platform of the Republican Party. Faithful to the self-evident truths enshrined in the Declaration of Independence, we assert the sanctity of human life and affirm that the unborn child has a fundamental individual right to life which cannot be infringed. We support a human life amendment to the Constitution and endorse legislation to make clear that the 14th Amendment's protection apply to unborn children. That's the personhood element. We oppose using public revenues to promote or perform abortion or fund organizations which perform or advocate abortion and we will not fund or subsidize health care which includes abortion coverage. We support the appointment of judges who respect traditional family values and the sanctity of innocent human life. We oppose the non-consensual withholding of or withdrawal of care or treatment, including food and water, from people with disabilities. This is the other end of bioethics, of a pro-life view. People on the other end of the spectrum. We are opposed to removing food and water from people with disabilities, including newborns as well as the elderly and infirm, just as we oppose an active and passive euthanasia and assisted suicide. Willie G., you just heard the Democrat Party and the Republican Party's platforms, public policy positions. Your thoughts on the Republican position?
Night and day. I mean, just especially now that we're doing voter registration, everything leading up to this election on November 3rd. How can a Catholic or a Christian even think of entertaining what you just read about the Democrat platform? I mean, it's absurd. It really is. It's just so evil and demonic. And when I go up and I meet with the Catholic priests, clergy, and they're still talking about, well, we have to look at everything. And they're trying to bring up immigration, compared to abortion. Right. And they say, we have to look at everything. I said, no, you don't have to look at everything. You look at one thing, and that's life. Yep. And the fifth commandment says, thou shalt not kill. And if there is any candidate, Republican, Democrat, I don't care who it is, if he doesn't defend life and the sanctity of life, dismissed. It's simple as that. We need to be really strong at the pulpit. All the churches, I mean, starting with Christ Fellowship, down the road here from my house, everywhere we really have to push that. It's all about pro-life, right. And that's the pro-life vote that's going to win it for Trump in November 3rd.
And I didn't realize Liz Warren was so pro-life. I mean, she came out on the Democrat stage and it was like so pro-life. She's like going after Bloomberg. How dare you, tell someone to get rid of you?
Might we have a little piece of that video?
Yes, we do.
Oh, let's listen to this.
At least I didn't have a boss who said to me, kill it. The way that Mayor Bloomberg
never
is alleged
said
to
that.
have said to one of his pregnant employees. People want a chance to hear. People want a chance to hear from the women who
I
have
never
worked.
said that.
I want to allow the mayor
for the record, if she was a teacher in New York City, she would never have had that problem. We treated our teachers the right way, and the unions will tell you exactly that.
Well, Mayor
Where do you even
Bloomberg,
start
Senator
with this
Warren,
nonsense?
let us have the women have an opportunity to speak. The Bloomberg corporations and Mayor Bloomberg
But
himself.
here's the point with this.
Wow.
This was at the debate the other day. Yeah. And there's a canard going around, and maybe true, maybe not, that a woman came up to Bloomberg 30 years ago and said, I'm pregnant. I may have to take some time off. Kill it, just kill it. He may have said that. He may not. He says he did. Under oath, he said he didn't. But it's a good illustration of the look. If a person thinks they're an Indian when they're not, and they go around thinking they're an Indian when they're not, you don't expect logical consistency. She's so pro-abortion, Elizabeth Warren. It isn't funny. Why is she defending a pro-life position. You told me to kill. She should be saying, "Hey, don't kill it." Sure,
you should have used better words.
His right, her right. If they want to, it's up to them.
Have an abortion, continue your job. I mean, you should make that choice. I mean, you're 3 months.
What's the
pregnant.
difference if he said have an abortion or kill it? What's the difference?
Yeah,
you kill it if you have an abortion.
Of all the arguments I've ever heard on the debate, that had to be one of the silliest. As a matter of fact, Lent just started yesterday, the 40 days, and I've given up watching Democrat debates. It's one of the things I'm giving up.
Wow,
40 days.
you're really committed.
Yeah. Wow. I enjoy them. I like watching them. They entertain me.
Midwest Dick, you had to step out for a minute and do your due diligence. I don't know if you heard me read the Democrat platform, but it's 180 opposite, completely opposite the Republican platform. Your thoughts on the distinctions from a public policy point of view between the two parties?
Well, I'm concerned because I know in my own family I have a difference of agreement, a difference of opinion, and it really bothers me. I think this conversation this morning is really important, really profound, and I got to go do a better job as a parent. So somehow, on a personal level, I'm aware how deadly this conversation is when they get it wrong, and to have it as a platform plank of the Democratic Party is a disaster. And it relates to all these other kind of issues that we've talked about. Again, I'll go back to Philip Haney. If you commit to abortion, Democrats, your moral, there is no moral basis to many of the things you do. You can lie, you can cheat because you can kill. You can kill with impunity. It's devastating.
If we had to, and I used to do these exercises in class. I taught at a seminary for a while on philosophy and ethics and all this stuff. If we had to form right here, this group, whoever's in this studio right now, we had to start our own country. Like Lord of the Rings, one of those kind of things. We're on an island, we have to start our own country. We get together and we say at the beginning, all right, well, we got to find a girl, first of all, because there's all guys in here, so we got to find a girl someplace. But a girl comes washing ashore, and there's one girl there. And then we say, how are we going to treat one another? Let's start from whether or not at the beginning we're going to sacrifice children to Moloch, to the god Moloch. Are we going to sacrifice children?
No.
Okay. How about old people? We're going to put them on icebergs like the Eskimos do and let them float out to sea?
Maybe.
Do that? Yeah, it's a possibility.
We'll debate that one.
They're over 97.
Your dad's watching.
I resemble that. I personally resemble that.
How about retarded people? They don't like that term anymore. Retarded people.
Mentally challenged.
There's something wrong. We're gonna wipe them out too, or what do we do with them?
All right.
Right.
No.
So the answer, how we answer those three, little babies, because if you say you got to protect a little baby, then you obviously have to protect the little baby while it's before it's born. People mentally challenged, retarded people, or the elderly. That definitively will form a foundation as to how you view human life and what direction your little society will go. It's that simple. And who would start out by saying, if we don't like the kid, we can kill him for any reason or no reason. If the retarded person gets in our way, we can get rid of him. And if the old people get in our way,
well, that's socialism.
Would you want to live in that society?
Well,
welcome to America today.
Well, welcome to socialism. That's
what welcome to socialism. What do you think, Willie G? We got a couple minutes left.
Not my favorite Pope Francis, but who am I to judge? Really is very profound, and we're starting off our own country, our own society, and everything. The Republic of Trento, we could call it. As long as the lady that washed ashore can cook and clean, and then Mark can cook, and I'm the cleaner, and then we're fine.
Yeah, lady that washes.
Oh, you just got a whole bunch of hate mail.
Well, Willie G, it's been great having you. We know you love giving your number out, and I'll manage the ladies that text me. Why don't you give me your number to get in touch with you, and why should they get in touch with you?
Willie Guardiola, 305-610-2992. Come on board here with the Pro-Lifers for Trump. Come out there and join us on next Thursday. That's the March 5th at 10 a.m. over at the Kravis Center. Everybody knows where that's at. We need to know, let Planned Parenthood know that we're out there and we're not happy with what they're doing here in Palm Beach County. 700 people are going to be in that luncheon, and they're paying top dollar. So we need to put an end here to abortion in Palm Beach County.
And I'll add, because there are young women going through crisis pregnancies right now, and I have all my life put out, if anyone is in any situation, Tom at theunitedwest.org.
Right.
Whatever your situation you're in, we'll find assistance for you. It's not going to be an abortion. Don't worry about that, but we'll find assistance. There's medical assistance, there's adoption, there's financial, there's a ton of stuff. People willing to help.
Let me throw in one last plug. I'm glad you brought that up. This past week we just met over at the Seasons 52 in Palm Beach Gardens. It's called Luncheon for Life. There was 75 of us there. Leaders that came all the way from Broward County, Port St. Lucie, and every county in between, and talking about, not just abortion and all that, but post-abortion. It was terrific.
Yeah, we're here for you. Tom Trento, we'll see you tomorrow. Enjoy your Thursday.